UCF has found their quarterback of the future. Maybe. I think it's a good one.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, James Duncan, UCF sports commentator extraordinaire, to talk a little UCF football here to get your week started on a Sunday night. There are some things, James, that necessitate a Sunday night live. Signing a portal QB is definitely one of them. Scott Frost, Mackenzie Milton, and company in the portal again, looking for a QB, and they think they have their guy on today's show. We're going to talk about Barnett, the JMU quarterback, signing with UCF. Then in the next part of the show, we're going to talk about what that QB battle potentially looks like this spring. In the show, talking about some other pieces that they have signed around him. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our title sponsor, guys. You know who it is. It's Game Time. If you're looking for tickets to something, Game Time has you covered, whether it's concerts, tickets. Look, the World Cup is coming. And if you want to get World Cup tickets, World Cup is on my bucket list. And I can't wait to go see a World Cup. I think I'm going to take my daughter to see the World Cup here. She's a soccer player. But there's no better soccer to watch than at the World Cup, and Game Time is going to help us make that happen here with tickets. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. We appreciate our title sponsor as always. Let's start at the top here. Barnett III has signed with UCF. Now, you were all over this here. We reported it out on social media. I see all the eyes popping in here on today's live quickly, guys. So if you're watching this live, we want to hear from you. Drop your comments. We'll get to your comments at some point in the show. This is not exactly a rebuild, but you are rebuilding some things offensively here. It starts at quarterback because you need a offensive identity, and you got to know what kind of quarterback you have to be able to do that. Barnett seems like the type of dual threat guy that could help Scott Frost do the types of things he's going to want to do. The Greensboro, North Carolina native was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, played at JMU from 22 through this year before entering the transfer portal and committing to UCF today. He's listed at 6 foot, almost 220, man. Like he's a big guy. So not towering, but like built. And, you know, when you look at his raw numbers, they're pretty impressive. Almost 3,000 yards passing, just a smidge under 3,000 yards passing, 23 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So an almost 3-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio. And if it translates, he could be their next guy. Now, we talked about all the money that you have to spend in the portal to go get one of those bona fide QB guys. Like, you know, we talked about Rocco Beck. Jackson Arnold's name got floated around there. There was Mestamaker. He ended up signing elsewhere. But could Barnett be the guy that helps you springboard UCF football forward? Talk to me what you think about Alonza Barnett III committing from JMU.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me about, you know, in my top 4 or 5 guys that UCF should have gone and grabbed in the portal, he would have been in that top 5. This guy was a proven G5 quarterback. I think some mistakes that you had seen from the prior couple years here is you were taking an unproven Power 5 guy versus a proven G5 guy. Proven G5 guys are not inexpensive. I'm sure that UCF was probably in that 1.3 to 1.8, maybe 2 million range. I'd be interested to see actually how much they paid this guy. So I will try and get that information at some point here. But yeah, I mean, Alonza Barnett, proven G5 guy. Obviously, you saw that he led JMU to the college football playoff this year. UCF has not had a QB transfer in that has been a post-playoff player. I'm aware that there are certain circumstances that allowed JMU to get in the playoff here. But nonetheless, that kid played in a playoff game a couple weeks or, a couple days ago. Last year, like you said, just under 3,000 yards passing, 23-8 touchdown to interception ratio. Also, you should notice that this kid had 589 yards on the ground as well last year.
He's dual threat.
Yeah, with a 15 touchdowns to go with that, including a 58-yard run in one game. So I think this has to be noted as like one of the best quarterback pickups in the UCF quarterback transfer portal era. I think he's got 1 year of eligibility. He played for 4 years at JMU. His first year only throwing and completing one pass, but he was a 2-year starter and a good 2-year starter. JMU had a pretty good 2-year run.
James, now, as you mentioned, cannot go understated. JMU was in the college football playoff. So he got his team to the college football playoff with a 12-2 record here. Now, in that game, now they got waxed up by Oregon. Make no mistake. Like they got waxed pretty good. But he was 20, so he was less than 50% passing in the game. But it wasn't. I watched that game. They didn't fail because Barnett couldn't carry a team of like, G5ers versus Oregon. But he to almost 300 yards passing at that game. He put another 45 on the ground, 3 total touchdowns. This kid is a baller,
without a doubt.
I think if you put next level talent around him, better talent than he will have played at anywhere, in a system suited to his abilities, we could see him succeed very well at the Power 4 level. Look, man, every once in a while, there's a story in college football of a 3-star guy who gets to a program at the right time and is a good fit, and then we see them explode onto the scene. If you watched Georgia versus like Ole Miss in the playoffs, Trinidad Chambliss is probably one of the best stories in college football.
Oh yeah, and he was what, D2?
Yeah, 3-star guy, man, a 3-star guy, tearing it up, making every single play Ole Miss needed. Now, I hate Ole Miss, and I hope all bad things in life happen to their football program, but I'm telling you, I like I like the story of Trinidad Chambliss in that it's not always the 5-star guys that are. The NFL is littered with 3-star kids who everybody else thought was a 3-star, but they were a 5-star here and a 5-star here. And a 5-star in the weight room, and a 5-star at practice in work ethic, a 5-star in the classroom. I hope Barnett is bringing 5-star everything to UCF here in terms of 5-star mentality, because look, I mean, you've got to get creative here if you're Scott Frost. Let's be honest, offensively, they didn't have a ton of success, but there was some proof of concept because they tried to do the things that they wanted to do. And while it didn't result in a bunch of wins, at least you could go back to the tape and say, look, man, it wasn't because we didn't try to pass the ball. We wanted to pass the ball. If that is you, I've talked about this, right? One of the greatest recruiting tools you have at this stage is saying, look at what we tried to do and failed. If it's you, we succeed. And I think that that's a powerful message, right? What's the ceiling for Mr. Barnett III in Orlando?
I mean, I think Barnett is going to be able to take this. I don't want to like, I'm going to get so many feeding delusions, like accusations, but I mean, I legit think this kid is a tier 1, tier 2 Power 5 quarterback. Like I really do think that he is going to be in the top of the conference next year. When we're talking about conversations in top 5 QBs in the conference, Alonza Barnett needs to be in that conversation next year if UCF is going to have any success at all. I think it's absolutely crucial that this guy needs time in the pocket. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later of building around Alonza Barnett. But yeah, I think that there's no reason that he does not succeed in this offense next year. It's almost like, I hated when people were saying, oh, KJ Jefferson is going to be perfect in Gus Malzahn's offense. Sure, in theory, but you didn't have a great O-line that year, and KJ Jefferson wasn't really a good quarterback. I mean, the guy was stumbling around on the field, throwing the ball every which way. It didn't look like he could throw. It didn't look like he could run. It looked like he was scared to play. you go watch Alonza Barnett's tape. That guy chucks that ball up, and he gives his guys 50-50 balls. And Mike, tell me if I'm wrong here, but how many 50, like genuinely real 50-50 opportunities do you think were thrown by Taven Jackson?
I knew you were going to go here. It was very boomer bust, but it was
I don't think there weren't enough opportunities.
There weren't a lot of opportunities for like, hey, here is a good ball, go get it. Yeah. And you have just as good a chance, and I need you to go make a play for me. I think when they threw them up, they were either wide open and missed, wide open and made, or poorly thrown. And and bad results on the play.
And you need a guy that can provide those opportunities. And I think that's why getting a guy that's used to doing that and then getting good wide receivers to match, because you're telling me Marcus Burke couldn't have gotten up a couple of balls for you last year? You're telling me Dylan Wade, the elite pass catching tight end, isn't going up and catching multiple balls for you? Like, sure, he was able to a couple of times, but it's only because he was given a couple opportunities, Mike.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Look, we did one of the biggest return announcements we got was Dwayne Thomas Jr., I love Dwayne Thomas Jr. And we talked about it when there was a play that needed to be made. Dylan Wade, Dwayne Thomas Jr., those guys were around the football. And hopefully what Barnett brings is more opportunities for those guys working their butts off to get open and to make plays for their QB. The ball just was not delivered on time enough last year for the offense to find any kind of consistency. And late in games where I want to give Frost a lot of credit. He created opportunities to win games at the end of games last year. And at some point, you just need guys who can go out and win their matchups. And UCF had some of those guys, but when it comes to the passing game and the receiver, you need a little help. You need a guy who can deliver a ball that you can make a play on. That's it, bottom line, or we'll find you. When Davi Belfort came in on that last play, there was a lot of criticism about the play call, but it was there. I think the point was it was there, and if the play is made by the guys on the field, Frost can dial it up. He can't go out there and throw it for him. Now, so is Barnett the guy that makes that play at the end of the game so that you beat Houston and you beat Kansas, right? And if you hold Cincinnati to 20 points, you win that game. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it was that you were not far off from really an 8-win season if you could just make like 6 or 7 more plays on your season. That's the dichotomy between what UCF football ended up being and what they could have been here. The great conversation here. Look, man, you bring a guy like Barnett in. There's an ongoing conversation in college football about these transfers. What does a competition look like? And because of the resources that are committed, is he going to be guaranteed the job? But we're going to talk about that right here next on Locked On UCF, guys. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Friday nights already feel a little different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making it even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Friday nights from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before windows close. The timing is perfect right before the games and right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday night energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NBA and of Locked On UCF. QB battle or guaranteed starter. What does it look like this spring? We don't know. We don't know the NIL numbers just yet on Barnett, but he made himself some money with how he played, taking JMU to the college football playoff and then not completely laying a dud statistically in that game. He made himself some money. As a matter of fact, he made himself the type of QB that UCF would go out and look at to come in. And if you're Barnett, this is the perfect marriage, I think, where you're going to a program that desperately needs you as much as you need them. Right now, because of how much UCF needs Barnett to play well, let's just say, I'm throwing some arbitrary numbers out here. I want everybody to understand this in no way reflects what we think these guys are getting paid. I'm just talking about averages across college football. We know that the top portal QBs are well north of $1 million at this point. That's just what the market dictates. But you got a lot of guys in that like $400,000 to $900,000 range. That would be a lot of money for UCF to pay a single guy here, because when you're talking about rev share, which they are fully funded to the 20.5, right? $1 million is like 7% of your rev share budget to one player. Now, with that financial commitment comes an expectation that you're not going to sit a guy who you're paying $1 million. And at UCF, you may not be sitting a guy you're paying $500,000, right? Like those guys are playing. Do you bring Barnett in saying this is your job to lose, or are you running this more traditionally if you're Scott Frost and saying, look, I'm playing the best guy no matter what, but obviously you've got a leg up on everybody else. Managing this process has become something different for coaches. It used to be you just start the best guy. When you decide to give a guy $1 million to come in, it's almost like you're saying, I already know you're going to be the best guy before you get here. And breaking that bias sometimes can be hard. What's best for UCF in this scenario?
Well, I think there's two things that I want UCF fans to look at when you're talking about this conversation. That is, look at the past 2 years. We'll go with Gus's last year. He brought in KJ Jefferson. He was the highest paid quarterback on that team. He started 5 games, 6 games maybe, and then he realized that he wasn't the best quarterback on the team. And we went 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Now, you look at last year. Taven Jackson, and I can confirm this, I mean, I was involved. Taven Jackson was the highest paid quarterback on that team. Now, he was under $1 million, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But Cam Fancher was also paid. Jacurri was also paid. But those guys were, it went Taven, Fancher, Jacurri in terms of what the payment was. And Taven didn't start that season. Cam started that season.
But what was the gap between Taven and the next guy, though? Was
pretty substantial.
Was it substantial?
It was almost double.
Okay.
So when we want to talk about Fancher being that much, I mean, they're relatively equal in skill, and one was getting paid almost half the other. I mean, that's not necessarily what you want to see. Well, but I like starting the guy that you think is best.
Yeah. I like that he will have the balls to say, I don't care what we're paying you. This guy gives us a better chance to win, and maybe we missed on the evaluation but you had every opportunity to come in here and hold on to this job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're Scott Frost, you're judged by wins and losses, period. And so the money people may not like that they gave you $1 million for a guy and you didn't play him, but you know what they will hate more is losing.
Yeah.
So
here's the second thing that we have to look at that I want people to recognize. UCF historically has kept anywhere from 4 to 5 quarterbacks on scholarship. For the past couple of years, it's mostly been 4. Last year was 4. It was Taven, Fancher, Jacurri, Davi Belfort. Those guys were on scholarship. Brock Hansel was not. You have 4 scholarship quarterbacks right now. You have Davi Belfort, you have Alonza Barnett, and you have the 2 freshmen that you just got, Rocco Marriott and Dante Carr. This might be your quarterback room for next year. Truthfully, this is it. Most likely. I mean, they could go out and get another quarterback if they feel fine at another unit, but most teams do not have 5 scholarship quarterbacks on their football team. So your quarterback room is likely going to be 1 senior or graduate, student, because that's what Alonza Barnett is playing his graduate year, And then your next guy is going to be likely Davi Belfort and then 2 true freshman quarterbacks. So if anything happens to Alonza Barnett, the next guy up is Davi Belfort or Rocco Marriott, deciding on, how he picks up the offense. But those are the things that you have to look at. So when I hear, is there going to be a QB battle? My first thought is absolutely not. But they're not going to say that coming out of camp. I mean, no head coach out of camp is going to, yeah, this is our guy. Like, this is our guy no matter what. There's obviously going to be provided a battle. They are going to want you to think that there is a battle, but it is going to be Alonza Barnett.
I am so fascinated by how the dynamic that this sets up when you bring a guy in who you're bringing him in with the intention of him being the guy. And what that guy commands on the NIL market. And it's just, there's some guys that just aren't coming in to sit, period. That's just the reality of it. So when you bring a guy like that in, you have to balance what message that sends to the rest of your room as far as competition is concerned. And then, if you're Rocco Marriott, you're not worried about who they bring in this year, right? Like, you probably weren't starting this year anyway, and you've got a lot of development to do. But if you were QB2 last year and you only got 2 years left of eligibility and they bring a guy like this in, you're thinking, nope. See, I can beat out another player, but I can't beat bias. And, this is the situation that a lot of coaches are finding themselves in this offseason, that, they have been for the last couple of years. I would say, like, what's a good example? Oklahoma goes out and gets John Mateer, right? Yeah. Number 1 player in the portal, great QB. And, I said early in the season when they played Auburn, I was like, the winner of this game is going to the college football playoff. Period. They made it. And when they brought him in, there was no QB battle. Mateer was the guy. That's why you brought him in there. You gave him, top money. And for what it's worth, I think he was worth every dime they paid for him. So if they're going out and they're getting those guys, I feel more confident about what the outcome will be. Hear me on this one. Like, if Scott Frost says, I will bring this guy in with the understanding that it's his job to lose, and send the message to the rest of the QB room, like, look, man, I'm bringing this guy in. He's going to play. I feel very, very confident about the outcome of that, rather than we got 3 guys and they all competed and we feel like we have 3 guys that can do the job. No, if a coach like Frost settles on a guy early, I feel really good about that guy, because I know he understands the good dynamics that competition presents. So the more confident they feel in him, I think the more confident UCF fans should feel in him. Look, he can't do it alone. You got to build a team around him. And there were some other signings here. And I want to give you the floor here in a second to run through those other signings. And we'll talk about what kind of team UCF is building here for the spring. Right here next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our title sponsor. We talked about it at the top of the show. It's game time. There's nothing like the college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few snaps. The playoffs aren't over, guys, so if you're trying to catch a college football playoff game here that's maybe regional to you, maybe your team is even playing, Game Time is the way to get there and get seated. Open the Game Time app, look up for college football games, choose your team. It's fast, it's easy, it is a great way to find seats. They've got a deal called Zone Deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. So seeing college football games as low as $25, can't beat that, man. Come on, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Building around Barnett. Now, the wide receiver room is one that we like. And you know what? There's a tight end that we really like. They decided he's going to come back. And we like him so much that he used a soundbite from our show in his return announcement. As a matter of fact, Dwayne Thomas Jr. used two sound bites from our show in his return announcement. Humble brag. But these guys are listening. They understand the importance that they play in what UCF is building. Quarterback gets a lot of the attention. It gets a lot of the praise. It gets a lot of the blame. But the truth is that you need guys out there to support the quarterback here. And I do want to do this. This is a little unorthodox, but I do want to give a plug to another show. Lots of great voices out there on UCF, but do us a favor, go check out our guy Sean over at the Charge On podcast for a balanced, take on some of these signings here. I know he has his thoughts on what UCF is doing here, and I listen to his stuff, and I like some of the things that Sean has to say about where the program is at. But do us a favor and just go give him a listen as well too on this very topic. I'm sure he's gonna have some interesting shows out this week. But James, what kind of team do we see coming in here? A lot of announcements flying around from UCF. I want you to talk about the ones that stand out.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a quiet day. I think I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. I think that is good because a lot of schools are seem suspicious about tampering and all those kinds of things. And, UCF has been doing their best to play by the rules. And so, we appreciate those non-immediate
rule followers.
Yeah. But I do want to note two important commitments that were made today, both on the O-line. I'm going to get to more as well, but O-line is what everyone kind of really needs right now. O-line is so expensive in the portal. O-line and D-line, it is expensive in the trenches. There's a lot of good specialists out there. There's a lot of good, wide receivers, a lot of good running backs, a lot of good tight ends, but boy, oh boy, do people need good O-line, D-line. So those guys are getting paid top dollar. We got a guy named Cooper Terpstra today from Michigan State University. He only started in one game last year. So I do believe that it's going to be recognized as more of a depth battle opportunity versus a guaranteed starting spot. But I do definitely want people to see Brady Wayburn, redshirt junior from UConn. He's played pretty well the past couple of years over there, was noted as a 87 overall transfer. That is probably going to be a guy that is going to see decent amount of game action next year for the UCF Knights. I do want to talk quickly about the wide receiver room because Alonza Barnett's got to have some guys to throw to. Obviously, we had Dylan Wade announce his return. We had Wade and Charles announce his return. We had Dwayne Thomas announce his return. That kind of leaves the way for 2 to 3 wide receivers to come in and maybe battle for that opportunity. I know Day Farmer is still, recovering from his injury of last year. He was actually prepped to be a starting wide receiver in the fall. Unfortunately, had a season-ending injury in the spring. So that's a guy that you still have on your lineup. Hopefully he comes back healthy, stays with the team. That'd be phenomenal. But there are some guys that I wanted to put out there today. No major commitments at wide receiver yet, but some names to look at. Other than the fact that we had a major commitment, a freshman commitment at the Under Armour All-American game. Thank you, Andrew Cherico, for covering that. He is a 93 overall wide receiver, 4-star, Tyron Horns. This guy has high-end speed. He's super shifty. His yards after catch ability, amazing. His comp is Khalil Shakir from 247 Sports. It was funny. I made a comment about how the fact that he looks a little bit like Khalil Shakir, and then went to his 247 Sports profile, and his comp was Khalil Shakir. So that was pretty cool. That guy is we heard Scott, Mike, didn't he say, I'm not going to sign kids unless I truthfully believe that they can play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's important to know that's a guy that could be playing a little bit for your football team next year. Another guy that I want you guys to watch out for in the transfer portal is Cade Wolford. He has a visit scheduled, I believe, for the 7th or 8th to UCF. He was a redshirt freshman last year and did really, really well for Kent State. Had 7 touchdowns, 509 yards on only 19 receptions. Dude is super, super fast. Another guy that I want people to look out for is Creshawn McCray from Michigan State University as well. This guy balled out last year, and I think that he could have a decent year for the Knights. I think that there's going to be at least 1 to 2 more, maybe even 3 wide receivers plucked out from the portal here, as we quietly heard that Carl Jenkins entered the portal today. No announcement was made, but it did log on 247 Sports and on 3 as he has entered the portal. You lost DJ Black. You're gonna go out and get some guys to replace these guys. Mike, I think the thing that I want to see out of the portal the most, besides offensive line and defensive line, is a 50-50, 6'2", 6'3" wide receiver. We need it. We need it because right now we've got Dwayne Thomas Jr., kind of short. We've got Waden, who's not super short, but he's not super tall, and he's kind of skinny. And you've got your pass catcher in Dylan Wade. You got some potential guys targeting.
Yeah, you need a guy with catch radius that can go up and just and be that rangy guy.
You need a Marcus Burke from last year. You need a Javon Baker, a Kobe Hudson.
Those fades in the corner of the end zone, right? Just the jump ball guy that may not be the fastest, but runs the right routes, is always in the right spot, and physically can just go up and get it. Yeah, I agree with you 100% here. Look, the portal closes on the 16th, but as noted, if you are in the portal, as long as you're in the portal, you can transfer after the 16th. So it's not like guys have to find a home by the 16th. It's just you got to be in the portal before it closes, which is the 16th. And if you want to be in spring ball, you don't have a bunch of time to make a decision here. You got to get enrolled in classes. So we're going to see guys making decisions quickly. The portal opened 2 days ago, as we're recording this, almost 3 days ago. However, it's still really early in the process. So guys are vetting through opportunities. They're taking official visits. They're getting on campus places. People are figuring out where they want to play football in 2026. If you're Scott Frost, you got to make sure that if there's a guy out there who is maybe not at the top of everybody's list, but is super talented and has a few opportunities, that you are selling the opportunity to play now. I think that's the most important thing that Scott Frost has to sell, especially offensively. If you want to play now, come to UCF. Look at what we lost. Look at where we're at. If you are the best and you're in the portal right now, you come here, you're going to play now. Period. And these guys, they don't want to sit, man. This whole idea of sitting and waiting, it's such an overplayed notion here. I don't want guys who want to sit at UCF. I want guys who want to play now, because you know what? They'll prepare with the urgency of I want to play now. And when if there's an injury, God forbid, or something happens, they'll be ready because they weren't sitting around thinking next year was going to be my year. You need guys, when Davi got the call, you think he was ready? Didn't see it coming. Last year when Dylan Risk got the call from 4th string, you think he was ready? You want guys who want to play now. James, we'll talk about this on another show. I don't want this show to run too long, but it's something we're going to deal with this offseason. It's, I think fans sometimes may be a little delusional now about, he should just sit and wait a year and then next year will be his turn. No. If you're the player, you can't have that mentality. And I'll tell you why. Is because they're always trying to bring somebody in that's better than you. It doesn't matter if you just won the Heisman. If they think there's somebody better, they're going to go get that guy and they're going to play him. Period. So you have to have the urgency within yourself of saying, I want to be ready when my moment comes, because There's a lot of guys who won their job through they weren't picked first, but they finished first because circumstances dictated that they step into the job, and once they got a shot, they never gave it back. Evaluations are not an exact science, not on paper, not statistically, right? Like, not on the film, not in practice. It is very, very hard to project, especially at QB, how a guy is going to perform when the lights are on, man. And sometimes you got to turn the lights on them before you'll know. But what I do know is if you get those guys who want to play now, they're more likely to be ready than the guys who think they got all the time in the world, man. Now, I want guys with the urgency of now under Frost here, because 5 wins didn't move the needle enough for patience. I'm telling you that right now. 5 wins, one win better than Gus in his worst year did not move the needle enough, at least for me, to say, look, man, I still need to see something from this staff. I'm a big Scott Frost supporter. I love McKenzie. I like what they're doing, but they still got to show us something here in 2026, James. That the passing game left so much to be desired that it's like you maybe got to earn up some trust points here offensively, and finding your guy at quarterback goes a long way into making sure that at least on paper it looks like it's moving forward. Is Barnett that guy? Is he the guy you can build around? How much eligibility does Barnett have left? I had it up and not
just one more year.
Which he's got one more
honestly,
year. Yeah, so he's a bridge guy. He's a bridge guy.
That's what you want. That's what you needed. And that was, I put a poll up for UCF fans so that we could talk about it on the show. And UCF fans, and it was close, guys. There's like 30 or 40 votes on this thing. UCF fans voted with 52%. 1 year senior, 1 year of eligibility QB to be a bridge rather than a guy that's a sophomore or junior with 2 to 3 years of eligibility, because I think that they realize what most UCF fans realize and want, and that is that you want Rocco Marriott starting for this team next year. And you need a guy that's going to be able to show him. And here's the thing, Rocco Marriott, it worked out perfectly. He was going to have to sit under Alonza Barnett for a year anyway, whether or not he was going to be at JMU or he was going to be here. Yeah. Because that's what the situation was that he was going into at JMU, was that Alonza Barnett was going to have another year and he was going to have to sit under and learn from it. Now he's getting to do it at a Power 5 school in much better weather. That's a win-win. I mean,
so better weather, better food, better school, better conference, hotter women. It just thinks this is a better situation.
That's what I'm
both
saying.
Guys involved here down in Orlando. James Duncan, UCF sports commentator. I can't wait to see how this. I can't wait for this spring. It is going. This should be one of the most anticipated springs I think that we've seen at UCF in quite some time. Barnett is going to help you generate, I think, the excitement that the program needs going into the fall from an NIL perspective, because when boosters aren't excited, they're not donating money, right? But when businesses aren't excited, they're not sponsoring NIL deals. And we saw Mohajir's plea kind of to the community to say, hey, we need you guys to get involved here with this NIL thing. We can fund the 20.6, but it goes beyond that. You need more. If you want your next Barnett, but you need him from Texas, you're going to need a cool couple mil, and not all of that can come from rev share. Like you need to be able to broker some third-party NIL deals that help get you the kids, because it's going to sound like this is all about money, but at the end of the day, right, what you want is enough money to make the money not a part of the conversation anymore.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? You want enough money to say, hey, we got the money they have. Now let's talk football.
And I like the strategy this year of going after G5 guys that are succeeding and FCS guys that are succeeding, because you need to find guys that are on the upward versus the unproven or downward train. Another guy real quick before we end the show that I wanted to mention, because here's the thing, these guys watch our shows. UCF fans watch our shows. My goal is to keep people as updated as possible. We got a quiet, commitment today from, relatively quiet, from Landon Chambers,
yes, I saw
who was a standout FCS running back from Central Arkansas. He balled out. I mean, 242 carries, 1,273 yards. Kid was averaging 5.3 yards a carry, had 10 touchdowns. You need guys that ball out and are a player. Whether or not it's at a lower level or not, you need to provide those guys with an opportunity to play against a higher level. I think he's going to come in here. He's coming into a room with 6 running backs right now. One of those or 2 of those being walk-ons. One of them, most likely, Ajman Adi, I think deserves a scholarship spot. I think he'll get one. But then you're obviously, you signed Kaj Baker and you signed Arthur Lewis in this class. And then you've got Tavion Swint. So you've got a pretty unexperienced group. None of those guys have taken college snaps before besides Ajman Adi, the former walk-on, or last year's walk-on. So you've got a pretty unexperienced group. I know that they are going after another guy in the portal. His name is Zylan Perry. He's from the University of Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. He's got some visits lined up to FSU, UCF, Cincinnati, Tennessee. I don't necessarily think that's a guy that maybe you're guaranteed to get or even leaning towards getting, but would most likely be your running back 1 if you brought him in next year. So just some things to look at while you're kind of building around Alonza Barnett.
Absolutely. Look, a couple comments I want to get to before we get out of here. Black Rican says things are lining up, and I didn't expect it to. Look, man, nothing wrong with a little hope. Justin Crumpton says 2026 will be different. I can feel it. I feel it too, Justin. I really do, and that's going to sound like crazy fan talk, but you get a couple of pieces, and starts with quarterback can give a lot of people a hope. Jackson Young says Barnett was a solid pickup. Chase says charge on. Let's get him an O-line. Oh my goodness. If Santa had O-line in the stocking stuffer, I'd be so happy. They definitely had some work to do there. And last, our guy Black Rican says, why do you think people online are saying UCF is a downgrade compared to JMU? Look, man, just ignorant fan talk. UCF is not a downgrade. And while they made the college football playoff, if they were in a P4 conference, they would not have made the college football playoff. And no disrespect to everything that Barnett and those guys accomplished this year. It is a great accomplishment to make the college football playoff. But Tulane and JMU had no business in that playoff, right? And those games were duds. They were blowouts. They were so overmatched. Great. We gave them a shot. That's why those guys are transferring to other programs now, though, so that they can actually have a shot should they lead their teams to the college football playoffs to win the playoffs. It's this isn't college basketball, right? So Cinderellas don't go very far in college football, and it happens every once in a while, but we have yet to see a Cinderella win it all in college football, or even make it to the final. The closest would have been like TCU a couple of years ago, and they got absolutely waxed. It was an all-time waxing, right? So I don't.
But that team did beat Michigan.
They did, but the biggest blowout in college football national championship history, though. Cinderella's in college football, man. Just I'm not a big fan. I'm just gonna tell you that I'm not that guy that's rooting for the underdog. No.
But TCU was also in a power conference. It was
they were.
Yeah.
They were.
So you could look at TCU, ASU, like teams that you didn't expect to compete, and they did, but those teams were also still in a power conference. So I don't know. I don't know about calling them Cinderellas.
True. Yeah. It's Cinderella in a sense that nobody expected them to compete for a championship, right? I think is more probably accurate description of what they were. I'll tell you what, an accurate description of this show is we're having a ton of fun here at Locked On UCF, talking UCF football. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the comments after the video. Let us know what you think about Barnett III committing to UCF. Do you think he'll find success here? Is he the guy? And how many wins do you think he gets, Scott Frost, in the fall? I know it's really early, so this is super early projection, but it's the offseason, so that's what we do. We project super early. And then let us know what you think about the QB battle this spring and what that looks like here, and some of the pieces that we talked about that they built around Barnett. We want to hear from you. Thank you for making us your first listen of every day, or your last listen if you're listening to this at night here. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow. Myself, James Duncan, Stat Boy Drew, right here on Locked On UCF, your favorite UCF podcast.